Hey, Joe Bob Briggs still hanging around, and so the killer grandbaby is now heading up the Coast Highway, ready to munch again. A great movie. I love that movie. All right, It's Alive 3 from the twisted mind of Larry Cohen. But we're not finished with homicidal infants. We got a lot more of that tonight, but I want to remind you that next week we have two of the, you can tell it's August, can't you? Because this is the kind of double feature that only turns up in August. We've got When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, the great caveman love story made by Val Guest in 1971, followed by Howard the Duck, the multi-million-dollar flop about an alien from a planet of ducks who lands in Cleveland and ruins Leah Thompson's career. An underrated movie, really. It's not nearly as bad as people say. I think they just kind of sold it the wrong way because it's a goofy comedy, but people really didn't want to see goofy comedy from George Lucas. Anyhow, that's next week, but right now it's time for Joe Bob's Last Call, and we have the sequel to one of the most notorious horror flicks of the 60s, Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, starring Stephen McHattie as Adrian the Devil Child, who becomes a rock star after he grows up, irritating the heck out of his mom, Patty Duke Aston. This was the years when she called herself Patty Duke Aston, not just Patty Duke. And it's all about how this grand committee of Satan-worshipping demons, chaired by Ray Milland and Ruth Gordon, are trying to lure the kid into a bloody ritual so that they can take over his mind and body and bring the devil to earth where he belongs. Unfortunately, Adrian keeps slipping through their slimy little fingers, giving us plenty of chances to load up the plot with TV stars like Broderick Crawford and Tina Louise and George Maharis and Donna Mills. This was made for TV, as you'll probably notice, just a little too slick for its own good, you know? Okay, let's look at the drive-in totals we have. 7 dead bodies, 1 burning teddy bear, 3 black masses, 1 ghost bus, 3 motor vehicle chases with crash, 3 fistfights, crucifix chest burning, hawk attack, bloody eyelids, electrocution, pentagram foo. I give it 2.5. 2.5, 2 1/4, okay? 2 1/4 stars. Check it out, and we'll be back with tips on how to tell if your own kid is the spawn of Satan. Roll it. We had 3 devil babies in my family. They all became investment advisors, you know? Have you thought about your IRA lately? Well, I have. Those are creepy people who do that job.
Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
Well, it's not quite Rosemary's Baby, is it? Because instead of Mia Farrow, we now have Patty Duke. At the time known as Patty Duke Aston, author of Surviving Sexual Assault. And instead of Roman Polanski directing, we have Sam Osteen. Otherwise, same kind of movie. Actually, there's only one actor from the original cast back for this picture, and that's Ruth Gordon as the old witch. Ruth Gordon won the Academy Award for her performance in the original Rosemary's Baby, so maybe she thought she'd get something for this one. Unfortunately, they forgot that pesky little item, the script. But remember the last 20 years of Ruth Gordon's life, how everyone would always say, the beloved Ruth Gordon and the legendary Ruth Gordon. They used to do that for anybody from the silent movie era who survived into the 80s. And actually, when Ruth made silent movies, the movie industry was still based in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It hadn't even moved out to Hollywood yet. That's how old she was. She got pretty nasty reviews as a young ingenue. And then she made her Broadway debut in, She made her Broadway debut in 1915 in Peter Pan, and she got bad reviews for that. And then she attended the Academy of Dramatic Arts, but she had to leave after a year there because they told her she had no talent. And then when she got her first starring role on stage, the reviewer said anybody this bad should retire from the stage. And it wasn't until 1936, when she was 40 years old, that she finally had a stage triumph in Ethan Frome. And she followed that up with A Doll's House. And then she went to Hollywood and she made movies like Abe Lincoln in Illinois. She went back to New York and created Dolly Levi on Broadway in The Matchmaker, that play that was eventually turned into the musical Hello, Dolly. And she was nominated for the Oscar 3 times as a writer. With her husband, Garson Kanin, she wrote Adam's Rib, Pat and Mike, and A Double Life. And she was also nominated as an actress for Inside Daisy Clover in 1965, But good things can't last forever, so by 1976, she was playing the supporting witch in Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, our special movie tonight. So back to the movie. It just has that made-for-TV oiliness about it, you know? Because in the same movie, you got George Maharis, you got Ray Milland, you got Tina Louise, you know, you got Broderick Crawford. I don't know about this, you know? Better bring out that full six-pack, you know? Get the tall boys, all right? What? No, I don't want a lime. Where are you from? Aspen?
Last call, and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
So, Tina Louise as a mother figure. I don't know. Because I know, she's trying to get away from that Ginger Grant thing, and at least they made her a baby-stealing hooker in this movie. But, of course, the only reason we know she's a hooker is that Ruth Gordon calls her a hooker, but she's still Ginger, you know? You can't get around that. She did a lot of good stuff besides Gilligan. She was a model and a nightclub singer, and she starred on Broadway in Little Abner, which is the part that got her noticed by Hollywood. And her very first film was God's Little Acre. But here's something that'll wake you up, though. Ginger is 63 this year. You didn't want to know that, did you guys? I didn't want to know that. Now, Broderick Crawford, on the other hand, Broderick was 163 at the time this movie was made. This was a typical Broderick performance. He'd come in for 2 or 3 scenes, collect his $90,000, and leave. Broderick was a little bit of a drinker, all right? Everybody remembers him best from the old Highway Patrol TV series and for his big Oscar-winning performance in All the King's Men, which I didn't think was so great, actually. I love that book, and I thought the movie version was pretty dim. But anyhow, the things I like about Broderick is that he made all those Fellini movies over in Italy. You know, he was better in those things than he was in American pictures, and then he created the character of Lenny in Of Mice and Men on Broadway. Does anybody remember that? No, because it was 200 years ago. So anyway, here he is, and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby, part of the parade of vanishing stars that helped this sucker get made. So roll it. You think maybe it's a little late at night to be talking about Steinbeck and Fellini? Yeah, because they're drunk or they're not drunk, you know? They'll hear the words Steinbeck and Fellini and they'll think, I'm talking about a couple of import beers, right? You know, Steinbeck from German master brewers, you know? Fellini from the heart of the Fellini Valley, Tunisia's best lager.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call, and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
Stephen McHattie as the evil Adrian, trying to mow down hapless bikers on the highway in the movie that asked the question, what's going on here? Because, I mean, what exactly do the witches and warlocks want with Adrian? Do they want his mind? Do they want his body? And why did the movie all of a sudden get ugly and gray and hard to see? Did they run out of lighting equipment or something halfway through the movie, or are they just being artistes, you know? Look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby so far. Nothing! So let's move it along, all right? You know how they say, if they blood him. What does that mean, blood him? You know, we must blood him in an act of violence. They say, the gates of hell will open. Now, I know that something really negative happens when you open the gates of hell. You know, I'm not sure what it is, but wolves start howling in Denmark or something, you know? They build a new Walmart. I don't know what.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call, and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
Well, as Ruth Gordon gets Stephen McHattie all liquored up for the big blooding scene, let's take a minute here for Joe Bob's Jailbreak, our weekly visit to America's finest penal institutions. And tonight our letter comes from Anthony Campbell and Johnny Stevens of Ironwood State Prison in Blythe, California. And they say, Dear Joe Bob, we are cellmates at Ironwood State Prison, and we'd like you to know that not a Friday goes by, this is when we were on Fridays, that we don't sit up on our bunks and enjoy Monstervision. We don't even need a 12-foot pole made out of sheets like those 2 maximum security inmates you heard from. In fact, we both have televisions in our cell And to double the excitement, we've got them both going on. I bet that is fun, guys. We definitely agree with you about the world needing more women in head-to-toe leather outfits like in The People Under the Stairs. Not exactly what I said, but words of wisdom, Joe Bob, words of wisdom. We'd like to request that you show The Return of the Living Dead. There's nothing like horror comedy and Linnea Quigley's Hooters to cap off a long day on the rock pile. Sincerely, Anthony Campbell, number K00717, and Johnny Stevens, who didn't put his number on here. But all right, guys, I'm almost going to give you what you want because we don't have Return of the Living Dead. But 3 weeks from tonight on August 23rd, we do have Return of the Living Dead 2, which I guess more properly would be Return of the Living Dead. But it's almost as good as the first one, and it fits right into the great TNT tradition of showing sequels out of context, because Smokey and the Bandit 2, we did that. Airport 75, it's quite a list, and we're proud of it. So, man, do we get a lot of mail from Ironwood. Ironwood it's in this farming and recreation town called Blythe, California. It's right on the Arizona border, there along Interstate 10, where there's wonderful fishing, water skiing, and rafting. Unfortunately, there's none of that for the 4,300 male inmates of Ironwood. But they do have a program called Arts and Correction. They rehabilitate you by teaching you ballet. I have no idea what they do there, but favorite inmate pastimes are basketball, baseball, and hardball. Now, I want to know what the difference is between baseball and hardball, but since it's in a prison, I don't want to get into it, you know. I don't know what they're doing. But I appreciate all you jailbirds tuning in at Blythe, because we love a captive audience here at Monstervision. Always remember, free your mind and your butt will follow. And now we return to Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, the director's cut. Go. Blythe, California. That's that place where if you cross over from Arizona, they have these uniformed officers checking your cars for illegal plants. They might refuse entry into California for your ficus tree. Now, maybe it's me, but I would think that California has a lot of serious crimes to be investigating, and at this point in history, the Clay Pot Orchid Patrol seems a little bit of a luxury, you know?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call, and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
Well, we know he's the devil child, don't we? Because he dances like Mick Jagger. As soon as he goes for that nasty rock and roll music, Ray Milland has won his soul. You ever get neck deep into a movie and then realize you have no idea what the plot is? Ray Milland is trying to get something out of Stephen McHattie, that's all I know. Ray Milland always delivers the goods, though. His career was over so many times, and he just kept coming back. He was about 70 years old when he made this movie. Reginald Truscott Jones from Wales. It's his real name, but you would never know he was from Wales because by this time in his life, he was pretty much identified with America. Most people thought he was American. I think the reason he was never a superstar is that he was kind of a loner. He didn't go to parties. He was never in the gossip columns. He was married to the same woman for 54 years. Who wants to hear about that? You know, he won the Oscar in 1945 for The Lost Weekend. And, of course, anybody who plays an alcoholic or an addict automatically wins the Oscar, right? So that was a shoo-in. Most recent example, Nicolas Cage. You know, the only thing better than playing an addict is playing a retarded person, like Rain Man, stuff like that. Anyhow, I love Ray Milland for one movie he did, a minor cult classic called X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes. He made quite a few B movies like Premature Burial and The Thing with Two Heads and Battlestar Galactica. But X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes was a little gem of a movie, 1963 movie, co-starring Don Rickles. Okay, enough Ray Milland trivia way too early in the morning. Back to the final chapter of Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. You know, there was a TV show in the 50s called The Ray Milland Show, a comedy series. You imagine Ray doing jokes? What would he joke about, you know? How natty the tweeds are this year. That would be a Ray Milland joke. People who put too many olives in their martinis. I don't think so, you know?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and look what's happened to Rosemary's Baby on TNT.
So Donna Mills is going to help Stephen McHattie kill George Maharis. Are we in TV movie hell or what? George Maharis is one of those guys who was just born to live in a TV movie, isn't he? Starred in Route 66 and then spent the rest of his career trying to get a part. He's been in everything, but you can't remember the titles of any of it. And he didn't really deserve that, because as you'll see in this upcoming scene, the man could really act when he had to. So check out the weird conclusion to the weird sequel, Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. Donna Mills, she's a major babe in this movie, you know? Actually, I saw her recently. She's still a major babe. She's got those babe genes, you know? Yep. If they ever learn how to do genetic DNA research and splice those things into people, there's hope for Janet Reno, you know what I mean?
Turn to Joe Bob's Last Call on TNT.
So is that what it was about? They needed Adrian's sperm. That was the whole deal. They needed him to plant a little devil baby inside Donna Mills, you know? So now they could make a movie called Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby's Baby. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on. Next week on Monstervision, we have the Hammer Films prehistoric classic When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, starring Victoria Vitri as the blonde cave girl with a loincloth and a push-up bra. And then our last call feature is Howard the Duck, starring a midget in a duck suit. And that's it for me tonight. And did you guys hear the one about the wife who asked her husband to go to the store one night and get her some cigarettes? He walks down to the store, but it's closed. So he goes into a nearby bar to use the vending machine. Well, at the bar, he sees this beautiful woman and he starts talking to her. They have a couple of beers, one thing leads to another, and they end up in her apartment. Well, after they've had their fun in her apartment, he realizes it's 3 a.m. and he says, oh no, my wife's gonna kill me. Have you got any talcum powder? So she gives him some talcum powder and he proceeds to rub it on his hands and he goes back home. Well, his wife is waiting for him in the doorway and she is pretty mad. Where the hell have you been? Well, honey, it's like this. I went to the store like you asked, but they were closed. So I went to the bar to use the vending machine. I saw this great-looking chick there. We had a few drinks. One thing led to another, and I ended up in bed with her. The wife says, oh, yeah, let me see your hands. She looks at his hands, sees they're covered with powder. She says, you liar, you went bowling again. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Guy with no arms walks into a bar, sits down, orders a drink. When the bartender brings the drink over, the guy says, can you hold the glass up to my mouth, please? So the bartender does it. Then the armless man says, could you please wipe off my chin with this napkin? I seem to have spilled a bit of my drink. So the bartender wipes the guy's face off. Then the guy says, where's the men's room? The bartender says, about 6 blocks down that way.